For his special address, I invite His Excellency Mr. Arif Muhammad Khan, Honorable Governor of Bihar, India.
Dr. Tirekat Jerion. Sir, I would like to pronounce the last part of your name as Satta Singh. You are Satta Singh. You are presiding over the meeting, and in Hindi, even Sanskrit, Satta Singh means one who is holding the reins of power. Gurumurti ji, very venerable saints, ladies and gentlemen, Gurumurti ji is very old friend. I have enjoyed his affection, his support, but at the same time, not at the same time, many times, I have dared to differ with him on certain things. As far as the substance of his speech is concerned, I totally agree with him. But in my opinion, he seems to have accepted religion as the right translation for dharma or dhamma. There I have a different viewpoint. I think religion is not same, dharma or dhamma is not the same as religion. Religion is essentially a prescriptive tradition where everything is prescribed. And the adherents are expected or obliged to follow those prescriptions. On the other hand, the concept of dhamma, dharma, is highly speculative. Highly speculative. It does not bound you by anything. Great Buddha said, while he was leaving this world, the disciples asked him, tell us something so that we do not go astray. And he says, Apo Deepo Bhava. Be your own light. Do not accept anything even on my authority. And this phrase, later I found that this phrase, Apo Deepo Bhava, is actually part of a shlok which comes from Atharva Veda. Dharma basically means something which integrates the society. Rituals, customs, dogma, how we give expression to our faith, our belief, our devotion, that is only a small part of that. And even there is total freedom, as Swami Vivekananda said, Ruchinam Vaichitriya Dirju Kutil Nanapat Josham Nirnam Eko Gamyastom Sa Paisa Marnav Ev. O Lord, he said in the Parliament of Religions, he said, we Indians, we start our day with this prayer that Lord, like various water bodies, rivers, springs, rivulets, they originate from their sources, take crooked or straight paths, but ultimately merge into the sea. So Lord, we take different paths. Depending on our Prakriti yanti bhutani. Each one does according to the disposition on which one is born. So we take different paths. But Lord, finally, like those river bodies, they merge into the sea. We seek to be one with you. And that is not the only thing. Srimad Bhagavad Gita says, Ye yathama pirpadyante tans tatev bhajamyaham mam vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. Lord says, tells Arjuna, that the devotee is free to take, or devotee, whatever path devotee chooses to come to me. The intention with which the devotee comes to me, I accept him in accordance with that. That is the Indian, that is what. Suddenly I recall, Gurumurti ji, Mahabharata has a beautiful verse. Jnanarthinam purata ananta marga santi yavanta khaga pantha ananta akashe uddiyante matsyacha agaha samudreshu taranti. The jnani, those who know, they are aware that there are as many ways to approach the divine as there are, as the pathways which are taken by the birds in the limitless sky, or the paths which are taken by the fishes in limitless ocean, sea. So that is what Dhamma basically, in fact, Dr. Radhakrishnan says, even if I do not believe in God, but I work for the integration of the society, then I am a dharmic person. Nobody can accuse me, provided I am working. Because it is not merely the highest ideal of the Indian tradition, Sanatan Siddhant, is ekatmata, that is oneness of being, which reconciles an individual to her or his own nature, the society, and the supreme truth. And here, because we are, two subjects are there. I mean, the only difference which I have is that I do not accept that religion is the right translation for dharma. Therefore, dharma is dharma. I won't like to compare dharma with religion. Like I won't like to compare apple with mango or some other fruit. But why? Another point which he made, brilliant point. We never had any aggressive designs against any people. We never attacked any other country, even at the zenith of our power. When the world recognized that India is the knowledge hub of the world, knowledge means power. It was recognized that India was a very powerful country. Even then. Why? Because we are better human beings than others? No, we are human beings. Human tendencies, human disposition, human inclinations, they are all same. The credit goes to our seers, our sages, who more than 5,000 years back, they laid down certain limits, maryada for us. What is the maryada? World over, cultures civilizations were defined either by color of skin, or by the language which you speak, or by the manner in which you give expression to your faith. Indian thought leaders rejected all these characteristics as variable and alienable. And they adopted the invariable and inalienable characteristic, that is Atma. Great Shankaracharya, because Gurumurti ji has great connection with that parampara. great Shankaracharya, young age, he leaves his house in search of a guru. He meets him at the bank of river Narmada. And Guru had come there for bath. Adi Shankara reached there. He did not know that he is the man whom he is searching. He is asking him, he asked him only that where this person lives. He looked at him. He found him so young and maybe appearance-wise different from the area in which the Guru lived. So he said, "Who are you?" This is what defines Indian civilization in India. Manobudh ahankar chittani naham, na cha shrotra jive, na cha ghran netre, na cha vyom bhumir, na tejo navayu, chidanand rupa shivoham shivo. He introduces himself. He said, that is the purpose for which I have come to know. I want to know who I am. I am not buddhi, intelligence. I am not nose. I am not ear. I am not this. My identity is not determined by my physical body. It is defined by Atma. And that explains why Adi Shankara took 4 Mahavakyas from the 4 Vedas and he gave the 4 mats which he later established in different regions of the country. He gave to each mat 1 Mahavakya from 1 Veda. And what are those Mahavakyas? Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. Prajnanam Brahma, I am Atma Brahma. What does these Mahavakyas indicate? They indicate about the divinity of mankind. The divinity of mankind. Swami Vivekananda did not say, I am sorry, I forgot to thank the host, the organizers of this program, Vivekananda International Foundation, Bodh Gaya. Yeah. So I want to thank you for your kind invitation and giving me this opportunity to share my views with such an august, eminent people who are sitting here. I'm very, very thankful to you. And your co-hosts who are from Thailand and from Japan. So, what Swami Vivekananda said? Explaining his mission in a letter which he had written to Sister Nivedita, one of his great disciples. What he says? He says, my mission is very simple and can be explained in very simple words. My life mission is to teach unto mankind their divinity. He did not say, I want to teach unto Indians. He did not address any specific guru. No, he said, I want to teach unto mankind their divinity. And the second part is more important. And its manifestation in all movements of life. The basic teaching of Indian civilization is Deho Devalaya Prokto Jivo Deva Sada Shiva. We see in human body, or we see the human body as abode of the divine, as the temple of the divine. That is the boundary which has been set by our thought leaders more than 5,000 years ago. If I have been told that I have to see divinity in everyone, and I really learned that lesson, I internalized that lesson, is it possible for me to put my foot on the foot of the other person? No, they have bound us. And that explains why we never had aggressive designs. That explains why we have always, we have seen, we are supposed to see divine in everybody. Because that is dharma. Religion is only for I want, even if I use the Indian terms, I want moksha, I want nirvana. I'm not going into the merits of the claims, but this is how you can attain, you can secure paradise. In India, the mindset is totally different. Here, when Swami Vivekananda set up the Ramakrishna Mission, the motto of the Ramakrishna Mission is Atmano Mokshartam Jagat Hitai Cha. Your salvation, you can secure, now I'm using the other language, paradise instead of moksha and nirvana. You can secure paradise only by working for the welfare of the universe, not just mankind. For the welfare of the universe, rightly pointed out by Gurumurti ji, that Vasudev Kutumbakam does not mean only human beings. The whole earth is family. To give you an example, no democracy in the world other than India started their journey with universal franchise. Nowhere women were given right to vote. And it took them decades and centuries to secure this right. At the time India became free, our literacy rate was only 17%. The decision to exclude many people could have been justified. But no, on a practical level, we might have committed blunders. We can be wronged. We can be blamed for committing wrongs. But on the theoretical level, on the level of the principles and ideals, at least in our public behavior, we won't like to be accused of violating our own ideals and values. We all know, I'm not criticizing, this is not for me to criticize anybody. But large part of the world, till about 100 years ago, or maybe 150 years, they believe that women and black people do not have soul. Therefore, they can be exploited. Indian worldview does not, it says that not only human beings, women and men, but even plants, animals, they also have souls. They also have Atma. And not just that. If you go to Kashmiri Shaivism, our Jain Muni is sitting here. He does not have freedom even to remove this cloth from his mouth. Why? Because our thinking is that unintentionally, inadvertently, I may hurt some small, very minute insects which are present there all the time in the air. Without any intention, I may hurt some of them. Therefore, I am imposing. Nobody has imposed this on him. It's self-imposed discipline. I have to be careful. If I am so careful, even about the non-human life, what should be my attitude towards the human life? What should be attitude about, normally religions do not see merit outside their own fold. This is, I mean, I'm not criticizing. This is how religions are. They say only if you subscribe to this kind of system, then only you can go to heaven. What the Indian view is on this? Yad vibhuti mat sattavam shri mad urjitam eva va tat eva avagaccha tvam mama tejom shasambhavam. Wherever you see extraordinary brilliance, extraordinary beauty, know that this brilliance, this beauty, or anything extraordinary, this has been created from a small part of me. Tejom shasambhavam. It has come from me. Therefore, for me, as an Indian, one who subscribes to the Sanatan Siddhant, and we should not forget one thing, that in Dhammapad, several places, Lord Buddha, while explaining a principle, finally says, this is Sanatan. Sanatan is eternal. Sanatan is not a noun. Sanatan is has been used more as an adjective. So it says that wherever, not necessarily in your own religious group, people who share the faith and belief and practices and customs and rituals with you, anywhere in the world, wherever you see extraordinary brilliance, wherever you see extraordinary beauty, extraordinary energy, try to find in that me, because it has originated from me. Here people are sitting here. No two persons have the same facial features. Even persons born of the same parents, their tastes differ. Their inclinations differ. What India says about this diversity? Our thought leaders have told us that diversity right from the time we started our civilizational journey is started with the today United Nations UNICEF has recognized that Rig Veda is the oldest book of the world, and the Rig Veda proclaims Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. The truth is one. Those who know it, they describe it variously. That has been the through these exhortations we have been told, diversity is the law of nature. Accept it, respect it. If all people were walking on a path which we consider right, then what we shall do in this world? Then we will have no responsibility. Everybody is walking. This life is a test. So what Indian thought leaders told us, our books told us, ka yada bhuta prithak bhava mekas thamanu pashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadiyate tada. All this diversity that you see around you, it all has emanated from one source. How much? Left. Sorry, I did not. You have made me speak, stray from the topic. What it says? All this diversity. Respect it, accept it. But those who consider this diversity as real, they are in trouble. Manasa eva idam aptavyam neha nana asti kinchana mirtyosa mirtyum gacchati ya iha naneva pashyati. Look at I really wonder what kind of evolved and sophisticated minds they were. On one hand, they are telling us, accept diversity, respect diversity, and then warning us that if you will treat this diversity as true, then you will keep traveling from one life to another life. There is no attainment of mukti for you. Hey? Look at this. I really wonder. Why? Hey, you must develop the ability to see intrinsic unity behind apparent diversity. This comes from Vedanta, Kathopanishad. This is what India, and in fact I had prepared some other talking points, but I have stayed. I am very sorry and I am going to finish it. But because I had to speak about the conflict, I think I should quote one of the rock edicts of great Ashoka. Because these rock edicts have been produced. He was totally devoted to the teachings of Lord Buddha. And all his edicts are deeply rooted in Buddha Dhamma. And they give us an idea. How, at one place Lord Buddha has said, in fact his own clan, what was the name of his clan? Shakya. And his mother's clan. Yeah. At one point they had come facing each other. Almost to a warring point. Great Buddha got the news. He reached the stage and he told them, what is more important, you are going to fight. Because everybody suspected there was a river in between and there was famine. So they thought that the other side will take more water. He said, this water which is used for agriculture is more important, or the blood which will shed if you fight between the two. You have a fight between the two. That is more important. And I'm going to quote this edict of Ashoka only to show the impact of Lord Buddha's teachings on his devotees. This 12-number edict says, the faiths of other all deserve to be honored for one reason or another. By honoring them, one exalts one's own faith and at the same time performs a service to the faith of others. By acting otherwise, one injures one's own faith and also does disservice to that of others. You can see the living example of these things. Those who try to insult, those who try to use, we only are right. I think just now Gurumurti ji had made some reference about this. I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. Look at those societies. Here Ashok is saying, by acting otherwise one injures one's own faith and also does disservice to that of others. For if a man praises his own faith and belittles another, because of devotion to his own and because he wants to glorify it, the warning is great. He says that such a person, he seriously injures his own faith. Because if then I create bad blood. When I have a right to say, I don't see any difficulty in that. That if I am following a path, I have chosen it because I consider it is right. But the way I have right to choose my own path, I must recognize, acknowledge the right of the other person to choose path for herself or himself. Have that respect for the individual. And the with this I would like to conclude my remarks that in 48, the whole world, and that thinking must have been, churning must have been going on, which crystallized in 1948 after 2 world wars. Earlier, all the cultures and civilizations, they created others. Because civilizations were defined either by faith or by color of the skin or by knowledge. Everybody does not have the same faith, religious faith. Everybody does not speak same language. So others were created. And others, the Indian tradition tells us, Duit yada ve bhe bhavti. You feel scared of the other because you do not know about him. So for the first time in 1948, the world community recognized that human beings, as human beings, are entitled to dignity, and then number of human rights which originated from this concept of dignity of mankind, they were acknowledged and recognized. I feel so proud of my cultural legacy, Indian cultural legacy. At the same time, I feel a sense of shame that I have not lived up to, I have not been able even to convey to the world what Indian legacy is. They were looking for dignity of mankind is a great concept. But India had given much more comprehensive concept thousands of years back. India had given the concept of divinity of mankind, which is more comprehensive than dignity of mankind. But because we failed to convey it, therefore the world had to find some other, and it became so late that only in 1948 this principle was founded, and on which people agreed, signed, almost all the countries have signed it. But again the question comes, because it is so recent, so new, you can change the law. It takes time to change the habits. Therefore you see all these conflicts and wars going on in the world, where threats are being held out that we shall wipe you out. We will bring end to your existence. India, Swami Vivekananda repeatedly said, India has a message to give. India has a message to give. India definitely, and when I say India, I think I should say, possibly if today Swami Vivekananda was there, he would have said Asia has to give a message. Because you can't exclude from that the Buddhist teachings. He would probably have said that Asia has a message to give. So if we do that, then definitely, but for giving the message, people are not going to, they don't have time. Nobody has time actually to understand a culture by reading the books. They will see how we are behaving. Satyam vad dharmam char. If you want people to influence people, then one will have to act accordingly, according to that principle. So I hope this conference will impart that sense in us that we should act according to these great precepts, and then we will be in a position where we can convey message to the world. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind, Jai Thailand, Jai Asia. Jai Jagat.
Thank you, sir, for your very, very special address. I now request His Excellency Mr. Arif Muhammad Khan, Dr. Thiraikad Jairon Setasin, and Mr. S. Gurumurthy to kindly release the Samvad 3, a global initiative, Hindu-Buddhist philosophy on conflict avoidance and environment consciousness, which is the proceedings of Samvad 3 in Mongolia. Thank you very much. We conclude this session. We will now have parallel sessions. Thematic session on conflict avoidance in meeting room number 3. Thematic session on environment consciousness in meeting room 4. And roundtable summit of religious and spiritual masters, all spiritual and religious masters, Hindu, Buddhist and all other religions,